Warsaw, late October 1943, Irina Sendler and Janina Grabowska were enjoying a rare moment of peace in their war-torn city. But their laughter froze when they heard the Gestapo pounding on Sandler's door. Sandler rushed to the window to dispose of incriminating evidence, only to see more police patrolling below. Knowing she was minutes from arrest, she told Janina her most dangerous possessions, a glass jar containing the names of over 2,000 Jewish children she'd smuggled to safety. This arrest wasn't the first consequence Sandler has faced in her lifelong crusade against anti-Semitism. Born to Catholic parents in 1910, she grew up in a predominantly Jewish town where her father treated poor Jewish patients other doctors refused to help. Irina was furious at the constant discrimination against her Jewish friends. As a graduate student in social welfare at the University of Warsaw, Sandler publicly denounced the segregation of classroom and defaced her non-Jewish identity card, earning her a suspension and a reputation of troublemaking. Buoyed by her socialist ideals and inspired by her fellow social workers, Sandler assisted vulnerable Jewish families across Warsaw, pushing back on the waves of anti-Semitism surging through Europe. But in September 1933, Nazi Germany invaded Poland, bringing laws that further eroded Jewish rights. In 1940, Hitler announced that hundreds of thousands of Jews in Warsaw were to be forced into just over 1 square mile land, bordered by high wall and subject to constant surveillance. Families living in the Warsaw ghetto quickly became starving and sick. Appalled, Sandler and her colleagues secured passage to the ghetto on the pretense of checking for typhus outbreaks. At first, her group worked to smuggle in resources with the help of sympathetic Polish officials and the medical underground. But as desperate parents began sending their children through sewers and over walls, it became clear that to help these people survive, Sandler needed to help them escape. Sandler and her associates developed a coordinated campaign of rescue missions. Children were bundled into dirty laundry, packed into boxes on cargo trains, and carried beneath the Gestapo's noses in coffins, toolboxes, and briefcases. Bigger children escaped through the courthouse and church, which straddled the ghetto's boundaries. Sender helped ferry these children to safe house before forging them new documents and sending them to orphanages, convents, and foster families across Poland. Name their Jewish identities and keep track of every child. Sandler kept painstaking records on thin cigarette paper and stored them in glass jars. This work was punishable by death, but for Sandler, such consequence palled in comparison to the pain of convincing parents to part with their children, often with no promise of a renewal. In 1942, the Nazi began transporting Jews from the ghetto into concentration camps. Sandler worked with new urgency, joining forces with the Nazi resistance group called Zigota. Zigota helped Sandler expand her operation by stashing money for her in post boxes across Warsaw. But this system would also be Sandler's downfall when the Gestapo threatened a laundry owner whose business contained a Zagota postbox. She gave them Sandler's name. At 3 a.m. on October 20th, the Gestapo burst into Sandler's apartment, arresting her for aiding Jews throughout the country. The police had captured Sandler, but her records remained safe. Janina protected the children's names with her life, all without knowing whether her friend would ever return. Despite enduring months of physical and psychological torture, Sandler betrayed no information. Defeated to the end, she was sentenced to execution on January 20th, 1944. But as she walked to her death, a German officer diverted her course. Zygota had paid the Gestapo the modern equivalent of over $100,000 for Sandler's release. That night, as she listened to bullhorns proclaiming her death, Sandler's work began anew. Remaining in hiding, she continued to oversee Zagota's rescue missions until Germany's defeat in 1945, where Sadler reunited with the children she'd helped escape, remaining in contact with many for the rest of her life. And while the new Polish government sought to suppress her story, the children she rescued ensured that she was recognized for her work. Yet, despite all the lives she saved, Sadler remained hesitant to accept praise for her actions, remarking, I continue to have qualms of conscience that I did so little.